That work? Yeah, there it is. Okay, we got Paul. Oh, Paul.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Okay. I tried to log in on a different, off of the website. I don't know that that's the same connection. I was just sitting in an empty room. But I'm here.
Oh. Uh-oh.
So then I use the connection on your email at work. Fine. Thank you.
Oh. Celia, did you use the connection that I forwarded to you?
Yes, I accepted the invitation, which let me get on.
Okay. So we
Thank
need to
you.
look. Go ahead.
Thank you.
We probably need to look into why that link didn't work.
It may just not have worked the first time. Sometimes I find that they don't always connect initially.
Okay.
It may just be me and Teams.
Yeah, well. So let's proceed. It's 5:03, and I'm conscious of the fact that we do not want the meeting to exceed an hour, and it shouldn't. So I don't know if we can call a meeting to order without a quorum or not. Jose, can you do that? I don't know what the rules are on that.
I'm not familiar with those rules either.
Celia, do you know?
Frank.
Do you?
No, I don't. All I know is you just can't vote on anything.
Okay, all right.
You can have a meeting without a quorum.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the limited meeting to order, where we will not vote because we do not have a quorum. However, I still think it's important to at least get, since the meeting is recorded, it gets public availability to what we're talking about, so that others can know what kind of conversations we're having and what's going on in the committee. So we're not going to vote on whether we adopt the agenda, but I will say you all have the agenda. I mailed it to you. There was no request for change to the agenda, but I, having reviewed the agenda myself, am requesting to put an additional item on the agenda, and that is at least a brief conversation, Jose, about the Wi-Fi access in the A51 building that we've been talking about, the room 104. Yes. So I'll add that to the agenda. So let's proceed. I don't have any meeting minutes. Thank you, Jose, for offering to now provide us some. Janine, of course, is the secretary and generates the minutes, but now she's out. So I don't know where the minutes are deposited, so I don't know where to go looking for those minutes. So I'll have to skip that item. Let's have a quick review of the treasurer's report. Again, Corbin is out. He sent me, I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you see this report?
Yes.
Yes.
Just got this today from Corbin. This is an accounting to date. You know, we can just kind of drag it. Maybe we can't. Kind of hoping yeah. We drag across those cells that I just highlighted. You can see that we spent $7,486. He's projecting that to be $11,061. All of the things that we're spending money on are related to licenses. And this table up here enumerates what those licenses are. This is something I want to talk to you about, Jose, because I know we reduced the licenses to 30-something licenses that are active, but we're still, regardless of reducing the licenses that we're using, that doesn't mean we're not paying for the 110 licenses that we have. And you can see, we actually indeed are paying for those.
Can,
So,
Tom, can I
yes,
interrupt you for a minute?
pardon me?
Charles Richards is having trouble getting on the meeting.
Can you forward the link to him?
I just forwarded it.
okay.
It's the only, it's
Yeah.
there in chat if you can copy it.
I don't know what I'm doing. Don't even ask me to do
Well,
it.
Come on,
John,
Sam, from New York, you should know.
Nope.
All right.
John knows what he's doing. Can you forward that to him, John?
I don't have Charles's contact.
Oh,
Neither do I.
Neil
I'm
might.
trying to see.
so he texted you saying that
He sent me a message in Messenger.
I see. So,
Anil, can you send it to him?
You're muted, Anil.
I think I can. Let me try.
Okay.
Thank you.
okay. Thank you for that. And this is probably stuff that Charles doesn't care a whole lot about anyway. So, Jose, I want to ask you,
So I do have an answer with regards
Okay.
to that. I spoke to Jake, who's our new account rep at CDW.
yeah,
The issue was that those business basic licenses were under Jim Hayes's name. So there has to be a transfer of account to my name so that I can make those changes.
okay,
In other words, I'm not authorized to make those changes. So,
I see.
but
Okay,
so the accounts right now are blocked and removed, but I can't close them out on the CDW side because they're managed by CDW.
okay. So I'm going to take that as an action item to discuss with Jim to transfer the ownership of CDW to Jose, so that you can then cancel those unused licenses and we stop paying for them. And then that will then affect these future predictions of where we think we'll be at the end of the year. Okay, thank you. Excellent. Moving on the agenda, I'm gonna end it. Any questions about the budget? I did submit a new budget.
I
Nobody.
do have a question.
Yeah,
Sorry, Tom. I made a discovery that there are residents that have Google Workspace email accounts under celebration.fl.us emails.
yeah.
Is that something that falls under the tech committee's budget, or is that something I can wean off the users over time, or is that something we charge the residents for so that they can continue to keep the email address?
Well, there's been a lot of conversation about that in the past that predates you. Just as a bit of history, there was a time when all of us had celebration.fl.us accounts.
Mhm.
And then we all gradually weaned off those, but there's a handful of people that still have those accounts. And that's why the new accounts have town hall at .celebration.fl.us, because we couldn't use that domain anymore because of these remaining legacy P accounts.
Okay.
I do believe that that's supposed to be at cost. It isn't free, but the guy who really is in the know about this particular topic is Jim.
Okay.
Jim really knows the whole details. I do know there are still active users, and I saw the Facebook posting from the one guy who was like, I got a question, and who manages this email server now? Because I want to get access to an email from the past, and he was asking questions about that. It's definitely not us.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure because we had a little incident where apparently that account was being managed by a company called Proactive Solutions, and they no longer exist, and a bill wasn't paid and I've figured out how to get access to the admin account and pay the bill, but now we're stuck with a bill for 33 users that are still using that account.
33,
33.
okay.
And I got called from residents all day yesterday. So,
Well, and again, and we're only, this is not our thing, but just as a person, I would say we're gonna have to accommodate them. I don't know if we want to, Charles is coming in.
all right, he's
Welcome,
on.
Charles. Welcome, Charles. Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a way to accommodate them, I guess.
Okay.
Especially if they're paying for it.
Tom,
Yeah,
I had that offer, as we all did back in the day, when they converted away from the celebration email accounts. It was very clear that each person was responsible to subscribe personally.
okay.
It was never anything being paid for by Celebration. And I know one person in particular who did it, I just have a recollection, was Lee Moore,
Yeah.
who at the time was on the board. And so you may want to ask Lee Moore, he's still around, specifically what he knows of those terms, but it was never something that the Homeowners Association was going to be paying a dime toward.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting that we would pay for them, Paul. All
No, I
I'm
know.
suggesting is that somebody has to pay for them.
Yeah, but I don't even think we're responsible for figuring out how to pay for it. Everyone was, back in the time, it was Gmail or Google that they were dealing with directly. I think Proactive was the company that was doing the website that failed like in 2015 and was replaced by the company that you're replacing now. Anyway, those people should all know that the Homeowners Association had nothing to do with their email addresses.
Yeah.
So we
And
have
they
to
can
send an
be-
email to the residents, just notifying them that they'll be held responsible for paying their yearly or monthly dues.
Yeah, they could be anywhere from $6 a month for the business starter one.
Yeah, it is $6.
$20 a month for the enterprise ones.
It's
Okay.
$6.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So in answer to your question is no, we have nothing to do with that email server.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, Charles.
Hello.
Glad you could join us. I don't know.
Thank you.
Sorry you had trouble getting on. I don't know what's happening there. We're going to look into that.
Yeah, it was taking me to a dead link on Teams. So
Okay. We just completed the treasury report and we had a brief conversation. Jose was asking about the old celebration.fl.us email accounts and whether or not we had any responsibility in that area. We don't. Those have been there since the beginning of the community. In fact, I had one of my own at one point. Okay, so moving on, going to the cornerstone enhancements, green initiatives, the EV car charging. Just by way of background on this, since we have Charles and Celia, this was an item that we were requested by CROA to report on monthly. What is the usage of the EV chargers by location? How many people use them? And what's the total usage? So we have been reporting on this monthly since the chargers were installed. And all of those charging reports are, we keep them in Teams, but I think we sent the last one to you, Jose, right? And I don't know what you did with it, but it's out there. It's a graphical, it's a JPEG.
So I have it. The reason I didn't put it up is because the new site is being redeveloped. So I didn't want to put it on a site that's not fully functioning. I would rather put it on the new site. And that's the reason I held off on it.
Okay,
No.
all right. So just suffice to say, I'm going to give you the good news. I'm going to give you worse news. We have all those details and the chargers are being used. The particularly contentious chargers are the ones at Lakeside because they're in the prime parking locations. So we're totally very conscious of the fact of where they are. And So we report in detail how many people pull up to the fast chargers, how many people pull up to the slow chargers, how many times they try to charge and it doesn't work. We have all those details and we reported on it monthly. So that's the good news. The bad news is like you're saying, well, where is it today? Well, today we went to retrieve the data. Of course, we do it on a monthly basis. And now we see that ChargeUp, who is the site that hosts this data, has now blocked our access to the details. We only have a broad overview of the charging report. So we can't get the level of detail that we formerly could. So Jose, if you would, the contact to ChargeUp was owned previously by Patrick, now by you. And we have to get to them and see what do we need to do to restore our access. We can still access the site, but it's just a high level. It doesn't give us the detail that CROA asked us to report on monthly. It gives us too much of a big picture of this is the total number of charges, this is how many minutes you charge, this is how much money was spent, but it's not detail that we really need to have. So could you get to them and see if we can restore access to, I just found this out today when Corbin went to get the report. Corbin is out, as you see. And so
Corbin,
pardon me?
Corbin is the person who has access to that and is the one that gets the detailed reports, or is it a specific group of people?
Corbin, he's the treasurer and he also provides this report, but I have access. I will send you the credentials if you don't have access so that you can log in. But somehow you'll need to, it looked like it had a chat bot down in the corner that they put in there, but there was nobody manning the chat bot. So we couldn't talk to them and say, hey, what happened to this access?
Got it. So I just really wanted to know who needs access so that way I can make sure that I address all of them in one shot.
Corbin needs access, but you might want to certainly give yourself access so that if Corbin goes away, you can give it to whoever you think needs it.
Got it.
So yeah, you need to have access and Corbin needs to have access, and we prepare these reports. And the reports are, I mean, it was pretty complicated because there's a lot of detail and we know when a person pulled in, we know how long they parked, how long and if they connected and didn't charge, and you know, we had all that data, and we only, you know, we distilled that down to the important detail. We don't, or at the moment, we don't care how long someone charges and then sits there and parks. But that down the road could become important. So we want all the detail that we had before.
So Tom, you know, it's interesting. I'm going to divert the conversation a little bit, but and even recently on Facebook, and again, I'm not on there, but I hear from other people what's on there. The whole complaint about the charging stations, which is a similar complaint, is about parking spaces and where they are, right? And like what you've heard me say before, even to Jack McLaughlin from CCCD, is that people just want premium parking spots, right? It's the same thing which I complain about with the NEV spots. People are too lazy to walk around a corner 100, 200, 300 feet to park legally. They want to park in a NEV spot. There are a million spots at Lakeside Park that they can legally 100 feet and get a spot. I mean, we need to do communications to the big, there's plenty, and again, I'm from New York City, so we walk blocks for spots. But it's all about laziness. The complaints are from laziness. I want a spot right here in front of the pool. I don't want to park. It's the same thing with picking up kids at school. They park illegally, put kids in jeopardy because they're lazy. And I think through technology and communication, it's an easy win for us to do things in our town to help with parking and stop with this laziness from people. And that's right. That's been the complaints about the chargers. Why are they there? Why are they right in front of the pool?
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I got off on that, but it's just, you know, we need, Celia, I know you're on. I know you feel me, Celia. It's like, it's an easy win for this. We can communicate like this and have people stop complaining about parking.
Celia raised her hand and then disappeared. So I don't, she's back. I don't know. Celia, did you
I'm here.
have a comment or?
What do you think?
Okay. All right. So with respect to,
Can I
okay.
talk?
Yes.
John, part of my laryngitis, but the people are frustrated because I understand the parking. That's a private CROA amenity that is allowed to be open to the public now. Anybody from anywhere in the world can park at Lakeside. And that was a lot of pushback on that.
But isn't that, I agree with you, Sue, but isn't that similar at Disney? You can charge your car at Disney, and I was just there over the weekend. You can go to Magic Kingdom or any of those and charge your car and park way up at the front by the gates, right? So
But we're not Disney, we're a HOA.
I
that
understand, but it's a common green initiative to allow people to park closer if they're going to charge their cars. And, I understand it's private, and I hear that.
It's private, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Because what happens now is people can come into that park. And because it's a private entity, if there's issues in that park, the sheriff can't come in there and do anything because it's a private entity. Paul, am I wrong, Paul?
The sheriff can come in. The sheriff's allowed in.
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
okay. That said,
All
the Chargers were part of a 2-year pilot program that Duke Energy ran with an option to extend it an additional 2 years. I can go back and check the records. I believe that we are now in, or very close to, the second 2-year period of time. After the 2 years, the Chargers will become ours. We will own them, and we are allowed to do anything at all we want with them. We can move them, we can take them out, we can change the price. They are our property. We will own them. That said, you guys know, but for those that don't know, we are also working with CCDD, who's looking at what Duke Energy is calling phase 2 of the electric vehicle charging program. Phase 2 is a completely different animal than phase 1. In phase 1, we paid $0 for the chargers, nothing whatsoever, and the customer only paid 13.5 cents per kilowatt hour plus a 5% fee. Phase 2, completely different. Phase 2 is we will have to pay for the chargers in some manner, either upfront cash or prorate that over a period of time. And we can charge whatever we want for the power. It's a completely different animal. CCDD, Greg Felak himself, is working with Duke Energy. We set up a meeting, we talked, we had Duke Energy in the Innovation Center. They're pursuing that, and the locations that they're considering are the locations right along Front Street there by
Columbia?
Columbia, yeah, right down the street from Columbia. So they're looking at those locations. We're completely aware, I mean, without being pompous, I think we're all relatively bright people, and we know that it's not going to look good to now just put in 4 new chargers, only a couple hundred feet from the chargers that nobody likes. So, but the fact is that the chargers that are there are stuck there for a while until this contract ends. So there may be if Greg gets his way, there might be a year where we're going to take a lot of heat because people are going to say, wow, what's the matter with these guys? That they would put new chargers so close to where the old chargers were. But that it's 2 different entities. So anyway, will Disney approve it? We don't, who knows? It would be hard for me to imagine that they wouldn't. Something like this, a green initiative with such visibility as electric vehicle chargers, I would guess that they would. But there's other entities that have to approve the location of these chargers. You also have to get the county, because we have to stripe the street with the appropriate logos that indicate that those are electric vehicle charging stations, spots. So, I mean, there's a lot of hurdles, and it could very well end up.
Tom, does that mean CROA has to share the cost with CCDD on this?
Who?
Does CROA have to share the
No.
upfront cost? Okay.
No, we have nothing to do with this.
Okay.
And in fact, Greg has already told me so much as, you know what, thank you guys. You did what I want you to do. You set me up with Duke Energy. You made the contact. I don't need you anymore. So he's actually told me that. So he's gonna carry this on his own. He doesn't need us. We facilitated a connection that he didn't have, and he's thankful, and now he's moving on without us. And the other location, of course, would be over at Stetson parking lot. That was another CDD location. That's less contentious because there are no other charges right near there, but I think we all recognize if we put 4 more chargers on Front Street while we still have the chargers that nobody likes in the parking lot in Lakeside, people are not gonna like it. So, okay, Charles, you got your hand raised.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, so with the 2-year contract expiring, what's the projected maintenance and upkeep costs that would be passed on to CROA as a result of that annually? Just out of curiosity, and I'm sorry if I missed that.
No, you didn't. We don't know what that would be. And of course, we'll ask. Nova charges the people who maintain the chargers. So that data is available. We just don't know what it is. But that said, there's no restrictions on the price. That is the charging price. So currently we're, as you heard me say, we're at 13.5 cents a kilowatt hour. Duke Energy just convinced the rate commission that 35 cents was an appropriate number for charging electric vehicles. So we could immediately raise the price of charging the 35 cents without batting an eye. We could raise it to 50 cents. We could do anything we want to cover the cost of the maintenance.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we also, the report that Corbin did is awesome because we see usage, right? Because obviously you don't want to charge too high and not get usage. So it's
Right.
finding that sweet spot of what we charge and people using it, right, to be able to optimize that, which we've been looking at, and Corbin's done an awesome job at that.
Yeah. So, we get, on the order of 130 charging sessions per month. But I don't know what it is now because of course we lost access to the data. So we'll have to fix that and hopefully we can get that done by next month. Okay, any other questions on that before we move on to the next item? We're already half an hour into the meeting. Okay, the project tracker. Jose, are you still preparing a project tracking mechanism?
Yes, so I do have Monday. I was supposed to send Anil an invite, but what I would rather do is to have you and whoever's available to meet in person so we can go over the product and go over the details. All the information that's in your current tracker in Teams is already on Monday.com. I just think sitting down, showing you how it behaves, the look and feel is going to make more sense than me just sending
Okay.
it out. And
All right, that's all I want to know. Yeah, we've committed that. It makes sense to have one project tracking tool.
Right.
We don't have multiple and besides that, that it also it eliminates the need for us to update ours.
Right.
So that's all good. All right, good, great. The project tracker we still have for Charles, who's new to the attending. I think the rest of maybe Paul, I don't know. We have a project. Every project that we work on, we have on a project tracker sheet, and there's an owner and a status as to where that project is. And some of them have dates and some of them don't. Some are just in the planning phase and some are in the actual implementation phase. We'll talk about what those are, but that'll all be moved to Jose's master project tracker when it's available. So Jose, anytime you want to have that meeting, just let me know and I'll be there.
sounds good. I'll make sure to schedule it and send it to the tech committee.
Okay, so autonomous vehicles. Just update. Those people on this call already know where we are, at least from the tech committee, but we've been meeting with BEEP on a weekly basis now. And we're at the phase of the project where we're looking at what the routes would be in preparation for a meeting with CROA, where we would like to be able to present data that says the route of this vehicle, which is more like a bus. It's a bus that will stop. It's a 9-passenger vehicle. Will be within so many thousand feet. There will be a stop within so many thousand feet of X% of the population of Celebration. So a number like, we'll be within 2,000 feet of 80% of the people who live in town. We'll be able to get to a stop before we go to the board. to get that data, I already have the data on all the service areas. I know how many people live in, or not how many people, how many addresses there are in each, and it's on our team's website, on our team's site, the enumeration of how many addresses there are in every one of the service areas. So we've gone through and tallied those. Lauren took the task of collecting data for us on how the condos and townhouses, because our instinct is that those are going to be higher density areas, that there'll be a lot of people in a smaller amount of space in near the townhomes and condos. We need to know where they are, where are the condos and townhomes, and how many addresses there are at those locations. So we're looking. So Jose, could you remind Lauren that she owes us that? I think she's forgotten. The last time we asked her for data, we had it within less than 24 hours. She was very fast. So my guess is that she just forgot to get this to us. So we did not meet with Beep this week because we had no new information, and we don't want to just meet, without a purpose. So if you could ask Lauren where we are on getting that data, and then of course we'll have to nail down some I'll call them logistics matters, which are very important logistics matters, like where do we park these, how do we charge them, how do we keep them secure at night, these kind of details, which we've talked about within ourselves. These are not, it's not like we haven't thought about these things, but before we actually go to the board, those questions are going to come up, and we have to come up with a tangible proposal that says these vehicles will be parked on lot B inside of a container, which we will decorate in such a fashion that they get past ARC and Disney, and we'll secure them at night, and we're going to have power and what's the cost associated with all of that. We have to have numbers.
Yeah, and we've been, and I've been kind of running. We've been talking a lot about best benefit to the community, right? We talked about Celebration Avenue and reaching, like Tom said, communities. We've been talking to the condo associations. My informal polling. I'm very active in town. I coach. I'm been here for a long time, familiar with a lot of people. And there's a big desire to get down to Island Village and the new complex over there with all the shops and stuff and new Publix over there. And the technology will be able to go down Celebration Boulevard over there at 35 miles an hour. So we're talking about that and all the Canoa apartments over there, and a big desire over there, even though it's not the inner community downtown at Publix, but we've been getting the details and finding it out, right, to be able to self-sustain something like this that would benefit the community, right, and reach and connect all parts of Celebration. So again, we're in early phases, talking to Beep, looking at grants, costs, all the people, all the condos. So again, that's where we're at right now with that, really, trying to optimize that.
To help us pay for this, just elaborate a little bit further on that, John. We talked about looking at grants, and also we have someone from Beep who's offered to, it's in their best interest, of course, to approach, say, Advent Health, and we could have banners, wraps inside the vehicle or on the outside. For Advent Health, we could, for the, right deal, we could, guarantee a stop at Advent Health. It would seem like it would be wise to have one anyway. But we, work at a deal in exchange for advertising. Now, of course, Beep, this is the business they're in. So they know how to have those kind of conversations. And so, I mean, it's still a long way. We still have a lot to do here. This thing is not anywhere close. But
yeah, and the technology is advancing literally every 3 to 6 months until technology is really advancing on this too. So
yeah,
that's why we're early in the phase.
John and I and Beep, and sometimes Anil, we meet every single week on this with, this is not a dormant activity that we're just letting hope happen on its own. We're pushing this thing every single week with Beep. Beep is on the line with us weekly. So great. Thank you, John. The next item, the Communication Advisory Group initiatives. Janine's the champion of that, but because she was the chairman of the advisory group itself, there were a few things on there that that involved us. One of them was I don't want to even call it a cute kiosk, but I would call it outdoor signs, active signs rather than the passive sign like what we have in front front of 851 now. These would replacing the signs and with a screen, and I'm at the moment it's unclear as exactly what that. There's two options. You can have, you know, your standard LCD screen like we have, like you'd see over at Disney Springs, except laying down. There's also, you know, larger screens that are really, I would almost call them like dot matrix LEDs, and they come with different pixel diameters, 8 millimeters up to 20 millimeter. My gut, we met with a vendor on this. We had a long meeting with them to discuss what the options and to look at. The main thing is it has to look good, and it can't look kind of cheesy, if you know what I mean. So and it's a balance, because having the, you know, the LED pixels, 20 millimeter pixels, big old fat pixels flashing around, we probably will not fly with Disney. So, but of course, making smaller ones so that it approaches, you know, more of a look of a TV, of a smooth screen, increases the cost because there's more active components. So anyway, we're working through that. CDD was a part of the meeting. They came to it with the vendor. They are interested in going back to the the LCD concept downtown. Quite honestly, they're waiting for the next election to end, where they think this would have a chance of passing. So thank you, Celia. Celia says she has the list for the condos and townhomes. So that's where we are in digital signage. Cell service replacement. You know, I contacted Acela. Jose, I copied you on all the conversation. Yes. Did you hear anything from them?
Nope. I even reached out to their manager and they haven't replied.
This one stymies me. Okay, I guess we need to get back to them. I don't know if we all agree on this, but I know some of us agree that cell service, the user interface is kind of nice, what we have right now. It's just that it's got some defects. It doesn't address some cases that we need to have addressed. And we've used the example of roadkill, and there's other things that have to be manually handled by you, Jose. What we're looking for something that we can automate, so that submissions by residents don't need handling in order to know where to go. Even if it were something as simple, I hate to use this example because Paul will start laughing, but the whole roadkill example that Patrick used to use, even if it was an example that said, thank you for the submission, it has been forwarded to the Department of Wildlife and whatever they are in Florida, and the contact there is this person to follow up. To the resident automatically, without needing Jose to look at this and manually have to type that in himself.
It shouldn't be the case. It should be automated.
Should not be the case. So the goal here is, before we pitch sell a service, which is largely good in most of the things that it does, we wanted to have a conversation with a cell to see if their API will allow us to make the customization to the program, if you want to call it, to the application that we want to make. That's what we're trying to do here. In order to do that, they have to have their technical people on the phone with you and me, Jose, and maybe anyone else on the committee that wants to attend and understand exactly what the API supports, what would we be able to change, how would we talk to it, what language does it understand? Is a Python script, or how do we talk to this API?
Right.
Get into detail with the developers to see what we can fix, what we can do. And if they say, well, you know what, if, like Patrick said, that you can't do anything, then we pursue an alternative vendor.
Okay.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about that. I think there's so much opportunity there with an app. You know, I'm an engineer at Apple a long time, and Corbin's with Disney, and we talked about things that the apps can do these days. And I mean, the roadkill is one, broken sprinklers, reserving the tennis court or the volleyball court where I am in North. I mean, there's so access to buildings and pools. There's so many things that we can talk about to use an app like that for services where technology can replace actual headcount of people that Gray Meadows has to hire and pay for, and be a lot more effective as well, right? So I think there's so much opportunity there with that.
Okay, so, Jose, with your permission, since I made the initial contact with these guys, I will go back to them again and say, hey, we haven't heard from you. And we want to hear from you, because we've been asked to either fix this or replace it.
That's fine.
But I just want to make sure that if they come to you and say, who are these guys contacting us, that you support us, that yes, you've authorized us as management to communicate with them.
Yep, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. We remember we had also spoken to Signal 311. They never got back to us either.
Yeah, I know.
So
Well,
it's been horrible with these folks.
Yep.
Again, we just keep climbing up the tree and asking for managers, but they don't respond, or if they do respond, they want to schedule something and they never get back to us anyway.
correct. So the whole Signal 311 thing, of course, was, $8,000 goes to 20,000. And so we were looking for $12,000 worth of value is to justify why we would do this. And I understand that some of us think that because it's a Microsoft platform, that that's a sufficient reason. I personally don't think that that's enough. I'm not afraid. I mean, I write API interfaces to Access, and they're not, that's a Linux. I don't care who generated the API. So I don't care if it's on if it's a Microsoft platform or not. It would be, I would feel a little bit uneasy going before the board and saying that we want 8,000 to go to 20,000 unless we have to.
Gotcha.
Okay, so much for that. So I'm not sure why we have the resident portage usage on the agenda, Jose. At one point, Lauren brought this up. I'm not sure why we have this on this agenda.
Wait, I'm looking at the agenda right now. Give me 1 second.
Item G.
Well, for the resident portal usage, I can't gather metrics till the site is redesigned either way, because that site is faulty, and right now they're redesigning everything on a whole new framework. So I wouldn't even bother talking about that right now.
I'm going to remove this. I'm not sure how this got on here. Of course, I'm the chairman. You would think I would know, but.
Now, if it's the Parks and Recs portal, that sits on its own site, and that site is up to date and is fully functioning, then I can get information on that, because that's where the bulk of the residents are going to use. They're going to use the portal to, for events, for any purchases or any bookings that I can acquire if it's needed.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that I'm not asking for a vote because we don't have a quorum, that we remove this item from the agenda for future discussion in the interest of time. Website update. So where are we? I know the website is not ours, Jose, but since we are the technology committee, you would not believe how many people think that we have something to do with the website, but we don't.
So I do have an update. We did have a kickoff meeting last week. They're gonna start rolling out the first 25 mission critical pages for the site, most of them that pertain to resident access. As you already know, a lot of that has to do with the meeting, the events calendar, the Parks and Recreations portal, and there's a whole slew of them that account for the 25. Myself and Liz Wargo were taking training to design the remaining pages, and then start taking pages that were not in use, that they were just sitting there, removing them, and pages that could have been consolidated into one section, putting them together. So right now it's just a work in progress. They're doing the first 25. They estimated 3 weeks, so they already started. So we got to give them about another 2.5 weeks.
So Tom, this is actually projected to you. Why isn't someone from the technology committee partnering with Jose and Grand Matter on the website? I would think one of us, and I'm not volunteering anyone, would have more insight as to usability and even so, some of the pain points that we foresee on a daily basis. So why not take this opportunity and have, maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be the technology committee, but get some of the residents involved to help Jose and Grand Manor as a whole as they go through this redesign. Because listen, in this close meeting here, the website in its current state is garbage. Even in its previous state, it's still garbage. We talked about something earlier on where residents were given emails addresses. It's still on the site. Go on the site. It's still there. It's available. You can go sign up for it. If you click through it, nothing happens, but all that information is still old and outdated. I think Jose's defense and Grand Manor, they're new. So some of these things they don't know. So having liaison work with them, whether it's communication, whether it's us, I think we're at a critical point where we need that right now.
Okay, Paul?
Can I add to that, Anil? It's a great point. Just so that I can clarify, this is a rebuild in a new framework of the current system with the way it looks. There is a phase that's coming up after the build that's a redesign. So the good point is that you brought up is if you fix the problem now, then when you do the redesign, you're golden, because all you're doing is changing the aesthetics. You're not changing the actual behavior.
Paul?
I just wanted to I think Anil's insight is absolutely correct on this. I may be the biggest user of the website because I've been using it for 15 years, and I know it at each of its iterations. And I can tell you at every turn, it deletes information that was once there and valuable. And if you're looking at its usage, what you are missing is that they're dead links, or that it's just some guy like me who's looking to see what happened in 2015's budget. Don't take that information down because it's not seen often. It becomes relevant when it's needed. So, and all I can suggest to you is please don't streamline it. Just find ways for it to work. And I know of no information that is on that website that is useless. I know of links that don't work. I know of things that are terribly outdated, including staff, a list of staff. But I don't know of anything that, if it's kept up to date, would be completely useless to the community in a way a website should be helpful. So I think Anil is right. You need to get insight from people who use it. This committee is a good committee for that because most of them have, or they know people who do. So just throwing that in.
Definitely.
Yep, great feedback.
Well, the only thing I would say, okay, Charles, did you want to say something?
I would just say I'll be a resident volunteer if you need someone.
Okay. The only thing I would say, we're a technology group. We're technical experts in different fields of some type. And it doesn't appear to me that the issue with the website is really technical. They have an engineering firm that's doing these changes, and my guess is that these are competent and capable people. That really it's an ergonomic discussion about what's on there, how is it presented, how does it show, rather than if you need somebody to dive into the PHP or JavaScript, that would be us. But I don't really believe that that's the issue with the site. It's not a functionality. Now, if they had the JavaScript that was airing out and they said we can't fix this, then you would call us and we could help. But I don't see that is the issue. And we're a technology.
So I would disagree with you a little bit, Tom. I mean, we do human interface and user experience at Apple with our technology all the time, Tom. So I understand your point. I agree with you, but I think there's a whole other element, that Paul brought up and Neil brought up that I think is very valuable.
So I think it's contents and functionality. I think where this committee could help is functionality, whether it's now or or phase two, we should start thinking about that. And Jose, by no means I'm trying to, step on what you're doing here or anything like that. So Tom, to your point and John's point, I think functionality, we should have a good stake in that. As far as content is concerned, and what Paul mentioned is that should definitely, maybe the advisory group, or Jose, you should probably, I know you can ask people until you're blue in the face and no one would probably respond, but this is a good opportunity for them to help you.
So I'm in full agreement. And what I'll do is, once they present us the first phase iteration, I'll make sure that I bring you guys into the fold, whoever wants to volunteer, make whatever recommendations you want. If it makes perfect sense and we're all in agreement, then we'll just make sure that those changes are made and reflected so that the user experience is great. And then we'll do one more pass through for what we call a user acceptance agreement, so that everybody says, okay, somebody in the residence tested it, they find it that it works well and it's better. And to Paul's to answer Paul's question, no documentation is to be removed even in its present state. So everything that we have, we're gonna put right back in. We're not removing anything.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Jose. Well, could you put that in your minutes so that we follow up on this? Because this is something, I would probably lose track of. So if you put it in there, we'll keep it on the agenda to talk about. Let's move on because we're running out of time here. The stick room, it's been getting used quite a bit lately. I don't know where you are with the cleanup of the cables in there, Jose, but you know what? Let's not bog down this meeting with talking about what we do with the cables on the floor. The deferred use, what we deferred was a use discussion. I think, and we need to start advancing that. We're getting questions. I know Charles has even asked, how is this room used? Will it be available to residents? Is there some other use that we envision for the room? I personally, just as a personal view, would like to see the room get wider use. And I could see it used in a lot of different ways. I could see it used as a work from home and all. There are security considerations we have to work through, and Lauren brought those up, and I agree with those. I mean, how do we keep our stuff from walking out the door? How do we give access to legitimate users and schedule it? I think we need to have a discussion. I don't know whether we have it or with Jose, or we need to put a proposal on the table and put it before CROA, because when I talk to CROA about this, with CROA board members, they say, well, come to us and tell us what your proposal is. What's your plan? What do you think it should be used for? So I think, all right, given that, we should put a plan on the table. Here's how we think this room would benefit the community. Of course, we all like having it as our personal ad hoc conference rooms, which I use today with 2 board members, because I wanted to walk them through some of the projects they were asking about. And it's great to be able to do that and know what's always there. But there's a part of me that says, how do we get more out of that space?
Yeah, and it's not kids playing Fortnite in here.
I think it'll make a great educational section, especially for the residents.
Right.
You have a lot of residents who are not tech savvy, who want to be tech savvy, who want to, understand the portal, understand, how the email system works, and they don't have a forward-facing person. Like, my experiences this week has been a good one because of my interaction with the residents and hearing their pain points.
Okay.
And that'll be a good space to encourage.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jose. We can do trainings. I mean, I train customers all over the United States. I'd be happy to do a once a month kind of training in there for like you said, the website or Cellular or something like that. I mean,
so how do we get this down on paper so we can put it in front of the board?
I could whip up a proposal on how it should be used. And again, we're not limiting it to just the adult residents, the kids. They want to learn how to program. There's a lot of free coding sites where we can direct them and show them and give them examples. I think it's great. I think that was by far, coming into celebration, that was my favorite room So,
Okay, so okay, Jose, I don't know, do you have the time? It seems to me like you're like in an overload. Do you have time to take on something like this where you're gonna write this? We'll put down
I can do a small draft and then you guys can review it. And if you want to make any additions to
Okay.
it, by all means.
all right, I appreciate that. That would be great. Because we've been deferring it for some time and then, the advisory groups came along, and they were using it and we said, well, let's not put it on the table now because the advisory groups need the room and all that, but all of that's over now. So I think we should now open this thing up and get more use out of it. So let's put something on the table and go before the board. Community Wi-Fi. Jose, I talked to a couple board members today. Is it going to make it to the September agenda?
So I did speak to Nish. I did send you a quote for the stick room. I'm waiting for a quote for Lakeside so that we can get the antennas installed.
Okay,
So we did look at Ubiquity and some of the Meraki equipment. Depending on who's gonna deliver the fastest, that's where I'm gonna go with. Because
Okay.
right now it's insane how difficult it is to get any kind of IT hardware. And
okay,
by the way, Anil, thank you so much. I reached out to Micro Center in Yonkers, and they told me the same thing. It's a hold on everything. So
okay, so
first
just
come, first serve.
background, so we got Charles on
Anil.
here, Paul's on here. What is this initiative? This is an initiative to allow Wi-Fi access to any resident or guest at any of our CROA facilities or parks. There's a lot of places in Celebration which has poor cellular coverage. In 2022, it's hard to believe that you could come to a supposed high-tech town of Celebration and not be able and go to one of our events and not be able to have Wi-Fi access and have to use your cellular data. So what we decided in our last discussion, which was a week ago Wednesday, I think, right, Jose?
Yes.
Was that we would have a pilot run of this where we would put an access point that would serve the lakeside Great Lawn, if you will, and then we would demonstrate that it worked, and then we would propose having deploy it to the fields. Ideally, we would like to have this before the Christmas show. I don't think we probably won't make that, but I would like to, because that's a little bit more complicated out there because it's not a hardwired thing. It's a wireless distribution of Wi-Fi out there.
Yeah,
and
some of the
also,
just from resident reports, and we've been talking about residents trying to get Ubers in certain parts of Celebration and they have no cell phone coverage and they can't get an Uber. I have real estate friends here in Celebration that go use like the door locks and they use their phone to unlock a door to show it, and they have no cellular signal and they can't unlock a door, right? Especially in Artisan with certain carriers. So, I mean, this is a cheap, easier way to get access for some of those basic services that we're all rely on these days.
yeah,
You
just for
you kinda
clarity
nailed
though.
it. You nailed it because it's really addressing a more larger, serious systemic issue because we're using technology even in our homes to open the door in our homes. It can potentially create other more serious issues.
Yeah.
I was looking at, and I just wanted your feedback real quick. I was looking at antennas that were slightly stronger, and I don't know if you're familiar with WiMAX.
Yeah. Here's
And
one
I was
right here.
thinking-
This is a WiMAX site right here. It really was.
Look at
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I was
that's
thinking
WiMAX.
about why we're not looking at something that's gonna be further reaching versus something that's just gonna cover a specific area. Because if we're gonna waste the money on putting Wi-Fi, why not look at something that could cover a 6-mile, 12-mile radius, and you're not concerned about, well, I hit this little corner here, now I don't got Wi-Fi. Where you can have some overlap across all of Celebration, and you're not worried about it.
Well, let's see a proposal of what that would be. That wouldn't be WiMAX. WiMAX was obsoleted by LTE.
But LTE, yeah.
WiMAX exists in parts of the Mideast, but so I don't know what that technology.
What is Wi-Fi 6 is the one that I was
Yeah.
looking at.
I mean, there are certain communities, I mean, you're biting into a pretty big apple right there. There are certain communities like Apopka, as I mentioned before, which provides community-wide access to the entire town, using their streetlights. We weren't proposing putting something that big on the table right now. First of all, we have to deal with the cost implications of doing that. Kind of an easy win is to put an antenna panel, an access point really, on the wall, like for example, above the door over at Lakeside, and it would cover that great lawn and it would be relatively inexpensive. It would cost us more money for the security aspects of it than it would for the actual hardware. So my suggestion is that we don't attempt to go too big and then get bogged down and not get it done.
Right. Okay.
But having dug a little into well, we're at 6:02 now, but the security aspects of this, I'm fully on board with that it needs to be a sign-in process, even if it's a guest. And that security is a bi-directional security, because it also assures the residents that they are not connecting to an imposter. You and I know, and any tech savvy person knows, that I can put an access point out there and that says I'm celebration free Wi-Fi, and people will start connecting to me and as an imposter. However, if we make them log in using their ID, that will give them assurance that this is truly a secure connection. It's encrypted, and they'll know that we are really who we say we are, and not an imposter. So I'm totally on board with we're not going to make this just a guest access point. It's a guest with security. So I'm with you on that, Jose. But yeah, I'd be happy to look at, we'll look at whatever you think for a broader area coverage, but I would like it not to get bogged down. I really want to get this done, and man, I would love to have it done out at the.
Well, for range is really about the antenna, right? So as far as the internals, that's an easy win because we know what we're looking for. I mean, it's either Ubiquiti or Cisco Meraki, right? So it's really about the antenna and making sure we get the strongest bandwidth we can possible, so that way we get as much coverage across the board.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna, we'll talk offline about what's happening. Did I already talk about 103? I don't see it on the list, but I know I said I wanted to add it. I said it in the agenda. I would like to modify the agenda. What's happening there, Jose?
So at 8:51, I already spoke to Lauren. She gave me the green light to purchase the equipment needed for 8:51 so that we can have a segregated Wi-Fi and have a guest access and have a portal with a sign-in. I did look at the equipment that was on the ceiling. Matter of fact, today I went and looked at the equipment, and that thing is ancient now. So it's time to replace it. So I'm going to actually make a move this week to try to order something new and get that in play as quick as possible, because it is affecting that area.
Yeah, I know. You only get a 1 megabit data rate.
It's insane.
Using 80 megahertz of bandwidth up at 5.8. That's totally crazy. All right, so you're on the case.
Yes.
Are any other? We're overdue. I apologize. We're 5 minutes over. Are there any items that anyone like to bring up to discuss that we haven't talked about?
No. So I did send the smart city bandwidth proposal for all locations. I sent it to the tech committee today. I received it yesterday, and I also sent the stick room proposal to put a enclosure and redo the wiring in the stick room.
Okay.
So for you guys to review when you get a chance.
Will it be inside, or will it be on the other side of the wall?
Well, in the stick room, you have 3 walls that you're more than likely not going to be able to put inside the wall because of the way the wall is laid out. So you'll probably have a data jack box.
Wall. I'm sorry, Jose. I meant on the stick side of the wall or on the network side of the wall.
I would prefer to keep all stick room equipment in the stick room. So the enclosure is a small enclosure.
Okay.
It's just to make sure that your patch panel and your router or modem and everything is in that enclosure and it's locked in so no one can tamper with it. Okay. And your wire management goes through a feed that it looks nice and manageable, and you don't have all those cables that are on the floor.
Okay. Fine. That's good.
Hey, Jose, I didn't see the smart city proposal. Do you mind resending when you have an opportunity, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other items to discuss? Actually, I don't see it either, Jose.
Let me just check my email right now. I'm looking to see when I sent it. I sent it to you guys at 10:40 a.m.
You're connected to 851 Wi-Fi. That explains it.
Hold on, I'm just gonna forward it again to you guys. Adil, Tom.
All right. Any final comments, Paul? Thank
I
you.
just say it's a great meeting as always. Smart people doing good stuff. You should be applauded for this.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate those comments.
Yeah, great insight, Paul. We appreciate you too.
Yeah, yeah, well, Paul tells it like it is. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, so we'll take the good words when we can get them. All right, thank you very much.
Have a good
I will
night.
see you,
Thank you.
I will see you guys Wednesday, and hopefully, Jose, we'll get together before then.
Yes,
Okay.
we have to. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you
All right,
very
Thank
much.
you.
All right, bye-bye.